Welcome to Best of America by Horseback. As we travel through our communities and around the states, we see plaques and statues marking many historical places. However, we rarely have the opportunity to see past those monuments and feel the history and meet the people that are part of that history. On this episode, Best of America by Horseback, we're privileged to share with you an exclusive visit to the California ranch of President Ronald Reagan, and honored to introduce you to a great American, retired Secret Service agent John Barletta. Regardless of your political views, I think you'll feel the history and understand President Ronald Reagan and John Barletta have the identical love for horses and the great outdoors as you and I. It is an honor for me to be invited into your home to bring you another episode of Best of America by Horseback. I'm Tom C. Sit back, relax. We'll be right back.
Part of this show is brought to you by Tucker Trail Saddles, the world's finest trail saddles and equipment company. By Mill Creek Manure Spreaders, clean stalls in half the time with half the work. By CSI Saddle Pads, designed for your horse's comfort and performance in mind. The difference is amazing. And by Spurs Big Fix, wound, skin, and hoof. The more you use it, the more you'll love it.
We know about your big old truck and that trailer that you tow. We even heard about your toys. So, what's holding it all together? Good thing you know who to trust for trailer hitches. B&W Trailer Hitches. Trusted.
On this episode, Tom C. is visiting Ronald Reagan's beloved ranch in Santa Barbara, California. He will show you the ranch and take a look at the man himself through the eyes of his bodyguard and confidant, Secret Service agent John Barletta.
John Barletta is probably one of the closest people to Ronald Reagan. He did not serve in the administration. He served as a Secret Service agent. And though he did not make policy with Reagan, he certainly spent a great deal of time with him in the saddle at the ranch. And it's really not that they actually spend a lot of time talking. They just spend a lot of time riding and sort of sensing each other's thoughts and really communicating quietly as they were enjoying the trails of the ranch.
You had a special communications with the president. You and the president had the same unspoken language. Can you talk about that?
It was talking without talking. We'd just look at each other and we'd know. Or we'd pick up a conversation 3 months later and we wouldn't miss a beat. It would not miss a beat. I knew exactly what he was talking about. He knew what I was talking about. I was put in a very unbelievable position to be that close with him. And I think as it was many hours of riding one-on-one, and no one else could hear what we were talking about.
When you're protecting the President of the United States, you probably could have any horse you wanted. But was there a special horse that you and that horse also had that communication, that bond that allowed you to do your job?
People don't realize President Reagan wrote English, and so did I, coming from Boston. But I'd go to my counter sniper team and I'd say, what do you see out there when we're riding? He said, well, we see the two of you. We cannot tell faces. You both kind of look alike as far as dressing from 1,000 yards away. He said, but everybody knows he rides a white horse. So he had another white horse out here. And I asked him if I could ride him. He said, sure. Then I went to the counter sniper team and said, what do you see now? He said, we can't tell the difference. So God forbid, that made the odds 50-50 that the jackal would shoot me instead of him. So any orders that we can do, that's what we're going to do.
I understand that the president made a comment to Mr. Parr one time. We finally found one that can ride a horse.
You finally got me. You finally got me a good one. And actually, yeah. And then it was our first ride out here, and
Story goes you two guys were where the Secret Service couldn't find you. Any truth to that? Y'all were out somewhere?
unfortunately, that was true. That didn't happen again. You know, most people know just the front here. There's 688 acres back there, and you can get lost. And it was early on, and they didn't know where we were. And a lot of places they couldn't go because we're on horseback, they were in a vehicle. And they couldn't follow us. We corrected that though.
All the way up and over the ridge and come around this Wall Mountain, and down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Maryland, the tack room was an important place for the president because that's where his tools were for work and for riding. Tell me about it.
There's a tack room and there's a work room. And in the work room, he would have his workbench and all of his tools. He would keep his favorite Jeep and other vehicles. And in addition to that area where all the tools were kept, and I will also want to add that all of his nuts and bolts were in peanut butter jars like everybody else's. So when you walk through there, you see his collection of chainsaws, his ride-on lawnmower, Montgomery Ward, with a presidential seal on the top, which was a gift from the Secret Service. You're also going to see his saddles, his bridles, halters, everything that he needed to be able to prepare to go riding, which he did daily, oftentimes for 2 or 3 hours at a time. His tradition, he and Mrs. Reagan had a tradition. When it was time to go horseback riding, the president would saddle her horse and his horse with no help from Secret Service. This is what he did himself. And then he would ring a large bell at the top of the hill. When he rang the bell, Mrs. Reagan knew it was time to go horseback riding.
Hey, you timed that out just right.
Ronald Reagan and Nancy came from Hollywood, and there was always people that were saying when the cameras were on or film was rolling, they would show affection for each other, but they truly loved each other, didn't they?
They did. You know, I got to know the Tom Brokaws, the Sam Donaldsons, and they would ask me, is that for real or is that just an act? They didn't understand the true love. And I said, no, that's real. When we'd finish a ride, he would jump off his horse. He would do that, take the bit out of the horse's mouth, put the halter on, and she would stand there, sitting on her horse, waiting for him. And he would walk over, and her horse was huge, but he was a quarter horse, but he was big, no strings. And he would put his hands up. You know, Miss Reagan is 98 pounds soaking wet. And she would put her right foot over, but slide down into his arms. And they would sit there kissing like two kids in a driving movie in the backseat of a Buick. And it was, I'd turn away, I'd be embarrassed. It was a great love affair, just absolutely great.
Stay tuned for more of Best of America by Horseback's visit to Rancho del Cielo, Ronald Reagan's ranch in the heavens.
Hello, I'm Gary Stice. I am the #1 dealer for Lakota trailers nationwide. Please stop in and see our new facility. Our new facility has a very large display area where we will have up to a dozen trailers inside the building, a very large service center where we can service all your needs. We can take care of your horses as well as your trailer and show you new trailers also. Please stop in and see us on Interstate 71 south of Columbus, Ohio.
Welcome back to Best of America by Horseback's visit to the Ronald Reagan Ranch in California. Tom spoke with ranch curator Marilyn Fisher about President Ronald Reagan.
What did you expect President Reagan to be like?
I really didn't know what to expect. Of course, I'd read a lot about him and his presidency, and of course experienced his presidency as well, but I really didn't know what to expect. But I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I began working with his collection and working with he and Mrs. Reagan at the Reagan Library. There was a great outpouring of warmth. It's the kind of thing that many people have said about Ronald Reagan, is that when you meet him, you feel like you've known him for a long time. He just has a great warmth he had a great warmth about himself, and drew people in towards him, and it was a great privilege to be able to work with him.
What is it about this place that puts that extra sparkle in your thoughts and your conversation about the Reagans?
Oh, the fact that this is where Ronald Reagan loved to be. You get a sense of his presence here, a sense that he's just stepped out and he'll be back at any moment. And I've spent a great deal of time here on the property as a preservation officer. I know every nook and cranny, I know every artifact. I feel Reagan's presence when I am here. And you know, a great deal of it has to do with the fact that he loved coming here, he loved riding his horses, he loved working hard, chopping wood, clearing brush. This was really what he spent his time doing up here. And of course, as president, his official duties as well, because as you may know, the presidency travels with the president. Wherever he is, he can still make his decisions. The home was built in 1872. It's an authentic California adobe. This is what he loved. He loved California architecture. He loved American history. And this home was the perfect home for Ronald Reagan. Very simple, very humble. I like to say very essential Ronald Reagan.
When I was in his bedroom a little earlier, it's almost an Abe Lincoln story and a Save Your Money story. Mm-hmm. The two beds are pulled together to make one. And how are they secured again? Can we reveal that?
The two beds are secured together, two twin beds, very simple, secured together with twist ties. Oh, and when he slept on the bed, of course, it was the width of a standard, let's say, California king, but not the length. So there was a bench that was placed at the foot of the bed where he would rest his feet at night when he slept. This is the table where the Reagans would gather around every year to enjoy a Thanksgiving celebration together. This included all family members that could make it. The president typically would carve the turkey, and behind me here is a bumper pool table, which of course was used as a game until Thanksgiving Day, when they would cover it with a board. That is where the president would carve the turkey, and they would have a little buffet, and the family would enjoy their Thanksgiving time together. Oftentimes they would have their meal and then they would go horseback riding around the ranch.
Now, just over the hill, all the electronics of the Secret Service and security, it's all here, but not in the house. They all have it kind of out of the way, and I think that was on purpose.
Well, the president wanted the ranch to look as natural as possible, so everything, all of the yards and yards of cable for communications and whatnot are all underground. There are no telephone poles here. When you walk up to the home, you get the sense that you are going back to 1872, and this is the way that he preferred it. So everything was followed suit as far as running your electronics. If you had something, let's say the Secret Service would have electronics out in the pasture as a perimeter, a security perimeter. Each of those little installations would be covered with an artificial rock or an artificial boulder, so that you would look out into the pasture and it would look very natural.
What is it about you? I'm going to put you on the spot. What is it about you and the communication with horses and dogs that's special?
You have the same thing, Tom. I don't know what it is. I just communicate with them. They know what you want from them and don't want, and your love for them. And with horses, it's very easy, very gentle.
Across the hill.
Oh,
there.
there's the deer. They're going out by the horses. They all get along fine.
If Ronald Reagan was sitting here with you right now, what would he be saying?
He'd be talking, he might be talking a little bit religious, like
This
God
is-
made this.
This is his church, isn't it?
Yes, the cathedral in the sky, he called it.
one of the hardest things that you ever had to do when you went to Mrs. Reagan and she said, you have to do this? Many people don't know that story.
As the Alzheimer's was setting in, it got worse and worse. And like I said, riding a horse is inherently dangerous, and he wasn't controlling it. And here's a guy that's ridden for 50 years. And I went to her and I said, you know, I can't protect him from himself. This horse is going to seriously injure him. He's making rookie mistakes up there. And she grabbed my hand and she gets teary-eyed. She said, well, what should we do? I said, well, I strongly recommend you tell him not to ride anymore. And she said, I can't do that. You tell him. I said, I can't do that. She said, John, he'll take it better coming from you than his beloved wife. Boy, what a love story that was, Tom. Oh, my God. So...
You had to agonize over this.
Yeah, well, I went up to CP, and my fellow agents knew there was something going on, and she called me. She said, it's time. So I came down here, and he was sitting in front of the fireplace reading a book, as he always did, and we talked about the riding experience. We'd pick out a trail on the map. He said, well, do you think the fellas would like that? I said, you know, Mr. President, we're not here for you to entertain us. You just pick out where you want to go, and that's where we'll go. He said, yeah, but it's nice if everybody enjoys it too. So I used that. I said, you know, Mr. President, we didn't have a good time today. The agents didn't enjoy it. Mrs. Reagan doesn't enjoy it anymore because she's worried about you. And I certainly didn't enjoy it, and it doesn't look like you are anymore. And he got up and put his hands on my shoulders and said, because now I'm tearing up. And in his, I think one of his darkest hours, when he said, it's okay, I know. He knew that he shouldn't be riding, and he was trying to take the burden off of me.
That's the kind of man he was.
Yep.
We'll be right back for the conclusion of Best of America by Horseback's visit to the Ronald Reagan Ranch.
It is said.
Before it was illegal to pick your kid up by the arm, he'd pick me up and stick me in the saddle with him.
Another thing that comes when you buy property from Outlet Land, that means you get free lifetime riding at East Fork Stable.
The people that live here in this area are great. I mean, talk about people who just pitch in and give you a hand with stuff.
So you have access to 400 miles of trails in the northern part of this county.
If you dream it.
Well, you'll have 4, similar to Ohio, but just a lot milder. This just felt more like home dog.
It can be.
And let's ride.
You got it, hon.
Stop wasting hay. Save 30 to 40% of hay wasted in traditional ring feeders with hay feeders manufactured by Clinty Pipe Structures. Built with 10-gauge galvanized steel tubing, these durable feeders weighing over 1,000 pounds are the best built and longest lasting feeders on the market today. Free choice hay is the best feeding option for your horse. To limit hay, simply latch the grills upright. They can be crated and shipped all across the U.S. They also carry a long line of portable run-in shelters in other buildings. Clinty Pipe Structures, family owned and operated since 1949.
Welcome back to Best of America by Horseback's visit to the Ronald Reagan Ranch in California. Tom is talking with Marilyn Fisher, curator of the Reagan Ranch, about the Young Americas Foundation.
Young Americas Foundation was founded about 40 years ago. It is a conservative student outreach program. We primarily work with college students throughout the United States to bring conservative ideals to campuses. And Ronald Reagan fits well into that category. So in purchasing the ranch to preserve it as a historic home, we can then utilize that as an educational tool for our college programs. And we bring thousands of young people to the ranch every year to learn about Ronald Reagan.
When people visit this center, what are some of the highlights they'll see?
I think the highlight is the gallery. We have put together a gallery which covers Ronald Reagan's time at the ranch, everything from the purchase of the ranch property in 1974 up through the sale of the property to Young Americas Foundation by Mrs. Reagan in 1998.
Was it hard for you at times trying to remember you have a job to do And yet the president was so comfortable with you that he actually sought after that peace here on the ranch and wanted you to ride with him. Was that tough to keep that boundary?
You're not there to be their friend. You're there to protect their lives and their privacy. But you couldn't be around Ronald Reagan like I was without being a friend. But I always kept that foremost in my mind. I'm doing a job here too. And one of my rules, I would never speak unless he started the conversation, till he opened the door. This ranch and the freedom was what America was all about to him. And, you know, he would groom his own horses and saddle. Once in a while I would take care of that because he had a little bit of business to do on the phone. And, but he liked touching the animals, be close to them. He loved to say the best thing for the inside of a man is the outside of a horse. He loved it. He would, when he'd mount, you could just see him like sigh. You know, we're out riding.
50 years from now, when I may not be here and you may not be here, and folks are talking about trail riding, President Ronald Reagan, and your name comes up, what do you hope people will remember and say about you?
I hope that he was honest. There's some jealousies that I was so close to the president, but I never used that, and you don't impose. My fellow agents that I still in touch with them, we're all retired now, it's a young man's job. They all know. They all know the closeness I had with the president, but they knew I didn't use that position, and they trusted me.
For more information about the Ronald Reagan Ranch or the Young America's Foundation, contact them at 888-872-1776. We'd like to thank the Young America's Foundation and Marilyn Fisher for the exclusive access into the Reagan Ranch, and Mr. John Barletta. You can read more about his time spent with the president in his book, Riding with Reagan, available at Amazon.com.